Hello, and Happy New Year to all our viewers. And for our regulars, welcome back to the VMware on AWS update show, with a little delay to our very first episode of 2024, the March edition. For those who are new to the show, in this series, we bring you up to speed with new releases and features and general news on everything related to VMware and AWS. Plus, we'll let you know about any recently released blogs, articles, reference architectures, and customer case studies. Each show, we select one or two items from the list of updates, and with our guests, we dive a little deeper into them. Now, as you may have noticed, I am not Chris Porter, and it is with a heavy heart that I announce that he has actually moved on to another role in greener pastures. But it is with great pleasure that I would like to introduce you to our new co-host, Shania Swinney, who is a specialist solutions architect for VMC on AWS.
Thanks, Trace. It's my pleasure to be joining the team. On the agenda for today's show, we've got a regular round of updates from the world of VMware Cloud and AWS. This month, we'll dive deeper into advanced security features included out of the box in VMware Cloud on AWS, and we'll cover a recent feature enhancements available with VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, as well as new blogs and customers' case studies.
Exciting! Let's get into it.
For this month, we have updates covering a number of different services. Let's start with VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, VCDR for short. There have been significant changes to VCDR, with the recent announcements that we now support 15-minute recovery point objective, down from 30 minutes. There have been a number of enhancements to the ransom recovery capability. We'll cover in more detail later in the show with our special guest. Secondly, M7i Metal is now generally available for VMware Cloud on AWS in 5 regions. It's been a few months since it was announced at AWS re:Invent 2023. The M7i Metal is going to change the way we approach storage-heavy VMC on AWS deployments. AWS announced on the 29th of February the general availability of Amazon EC2 M7i instance for VMware Cloud on AWS. With this launch, customers can get the experience improved flexibility and greater control over their infrastructure, as they get to choose their storage and compute options independently. This offering features a disaggregated storage architecture from compute, supporting both Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP and VMware Cloud Flex Storage as primary storage options for customers. With this new offering, customers can now choose among 3 different instance types for VMware Cloud and AWS: i3EN, i4i, and M7i finally. The diskless instance allows customers to choose their storage and compute options independently, providing flexibility, control, and optimized infrastructure. VMware Cloud and AWS customers can leverage the M7i Metal instance in the following AWS regions: North Virginia, Ohio, Oregon, Ireland, and Stockholm. More regions expected to be added to the list very soon.
Next up, advanced security features are now included out of the box in VMware Cloud on AWS. Firstly, we have Layer 7 Application ID. With this capability, customers can create micro-segmentation security policies at more granular level for specific applications after determining which workloads comprise which application and what network traffic is necessary for the application. It can also restrict any other traffic, hence reducing the attack surface. The second feature is FQDN filtering. With this capability, security administrators can define firewall rules that explicitly provide access to a set of FQDNs and can control or restrict access to remote services and sites. The last feature is User Identity-Based Firewall, or IDFW. With this capability, customers can create firewall rules based on Active Directory or LDAP user groups in order to provide granular access control to applications.
Moving on to blogs and videos and customer case studies published in February. The first block incorporates using identity and access management, IAM for short, roles anywhere to help secure VMware Cloud on AWS workloads. It's been written by Mithil Rangdale and Rahul Gupta. In this post, we cover how AWS IAM roles anywhere can enhance the security of workloads running on VMware Cloud on AWS and their integration with AWS services. It goes into common use cases where workloads running on VMware Cloud on AWS need access to AWS native services, along with the advantages of using IAM roles anywhere for credential management, as well as demonstration of how to set up IAM roles anywhere for workloads running on VMware Cloud on AWS.
Second is a customer case study. It's on how Quality Bicycle Products, or QBP for short, migrated to VMware Cloud on AWS in under 18 months. QBP had a tight time frame of 14 to 18 months to complete the migration, making VMware Cloud on AWS a perfect path that allowed QBP to quickly move existing applications to AWS.
And lastly, an IDC study shows how participants capture value of VMware Cloud on AWS by establishing VMware-based hybrid cloud environments that delivers cost and staff efficiencies, in addition to benefits such as enhanced agility and performance and improved business results compared with their previous on-premises environment. Further, they benefit from the ease of application migration compared with using another native public cloud solutions. VMware Cloud on AWS outshines on-premises with 50% lower cost, 95% less downtime, and 361% ROI.
And that covers all of our main updates. Let's move on to the next segment of the show where we'll bring in our first guest. So I know all of you watching this are probably thinking there's one big update, one elephant in the room that we have not covered yet. And you're right. This update is, of course, that VMware is now a part of Broadcom. So in light of this acquisition, we wanted to bring in a very special guest from Broadcom, Senior Director of Product Management, Matt Dreyer. Hi, Matt. Welcome to the show. How's it going?
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me today.
So, Matt, to kick things off, you have a lot of experience with VMC on AWS. You've been here for a little while. Can you tell us a little bit about the history and your view of the partnership between VMware and AWS?
You bet. Yeah, I've been a part of VMware Cloud on AWS since the very beginning. Narayan and I and a team of scrappy folks put this thing together 7 years ago and started growing it ever since. And I think that's, in my own view, our partnership has really never been stronger. We have really gone through all kinds of expansion and adjustments to the service, adding to the fleet, adding to regions, adding all kinds of awesome capabilities. And I think that we are on a very good trajectory. And I think, again, the partnership has never looked as strong or as healthy as it has right now.
Awesome. And so given the recent acquisition by Broadcom, how will this, if at all, impact the VMware Cloud on AWS offering?
Good question. So Broadcom, in acquiring VMware, has had a couple of really big and kind of interesting goals in terms of simplifying. VMware at the time of acquisition, we're about 25 years old, right? And along the way, sort of amassed all kinds of great technology and a bit of technical debt, right? And so I think with Broadcom, being our new parent company, there is this really strong pressure to start simplifying. And so simplifying, I think, it really does have lots of very direct and very, rational customer benefits, right? Instead of having to, mull through, hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of different product offerings, it's now very simple, right? There are a couple of very large, very nicely entitled bundles that our customers can pick from. And I think that this is just going to make everything much simpler to understand, much easier to transact. And at the end of the day, it gets much simpler and much better for our customers. It's no more of this like, putting together this crazy puzzle. It's, what level of software capabilities do you need? Is it VCF or vSphere Foundation, to run your environment? And from there, you just go. And so I think that, we are going to continue aligning these capabilities between on-prem and VMware Cloud on AWS. In fact, we're already very, very close, right? With VMware Cloud on AWS Advanced, the software entitlement in that bundle is almost identical to the software entitlement to VCF on-prem. And so this whole thing becomes simpler. It becomes, just as powerful as it has always been. But it, I think, really just has a lot of niceties at the end of the day.
Thanks, Matt. I just want to know, how do you see AWS and VMware partnership evolving under the new structure?
I think it's full speed ahead. I think that we have reignited the roadmap and have really started doing much more cross training between the field teams, the partner teams, and everything else. If you just check the recent set of blog releases that we've done, you can see everybody's running faster. And so I think that personally, it's been very reinvigorating, kind of getting back to this pace. And I think that customers are going to see this too. We're going to see more instance types, more features, and lots of exciting stuff coming up.
Fantastic. Today, a lot of customers are looking to optimize their costs on infrastructure so that they can use the newfound budget on bringing innovation to the market. So from an economic point of view, can you talk about how VMC on AWS is compared to on-premises infrastructure or other native cloud options?
Absolutely. So we get this question all the time, like, why should I bother going to cloud? And so we've been doing lots of economic studies, internally with our customers and also with third parties to validate that, running workload in VMware Cloud on AWS is actually much less expensive than running it on-prem. In our most recent study, and again, you can go check the blog on this, we worked with IDC to validate that customers can actually achieve a 53% savings over running workloads on-prem. This isn't just VMware by Broadcom saying this. This is actually third-party validated, and our customers have been seeing this for a long time, right? Getting out of the data center operations business and really focusing your efforts on delivering higher value application services, it's just sort of a no-brainer. And after you run the models and start seeing this in practice, it becomes very, very evident over a term of a year or a couple of years, or frankly, even after you get that migration done over the course of a weekend.
Cool, thank you. So Matt, at the start of this episode, we went through a series of new features and releases. And so with everything that's been going on recently around the product, what are you most excited about?
I'm super excited about M7i. So we've been launching new instances throughout the course of the service. We started off with the i3 instance type. Then we brought on i3 and i4i, and now most recently M7i. The thing that I love about M7i is it goes back and addresses a price point that was, causing us a little bit of problems, actually. So our smaller customers that just wanted to bring a few workloads in, maybe it's a small, migration, small data center that we're trying to get rid of. Some of the big iron is just, frankly, not a perfect fit for that. And so with M7i and disaggregated storage, we've got a whole new set of architectural tools for customers to work with to sort of right size that migration and put the right workload in the right spot. And so you're going to see more of this. You're going to see, more instance types, more flexibility in the sizes and the types of SDDCs that you deploy, and ultimately really try to optimize that cost and make sure that you're squeezing every penny out of your infrastructure purchases.
You have been an awesome guest, Matt. Thanks for joining us. To close things out, do you have any parting thoughts, comments, or plugs?
I'm just so happy to be on this journey, and I think we all really, really are. I mean, the world of technology and the world of cloud moves so very, very quickly, and I think that we really are solving some critical customer pain points here, and I think we're going to continue to do so for many years to come. So thank you, everybody, for being on this journey with us, and I look forward to many more years of providing the service. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Matt.
Our next topic is VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery. And joining us today on the show is Greg Vinton, who is a specialist solution architect at AWS. Greg, welcome to the show. We'd love to hear more about VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery.
Hi, Shania. Hi, Dries. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate the time, and I'm sure you're having a great show already. I'm here to talk about VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery. I want to take you through two main topics today. The first, I'll give you a short overview of what VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery is, and then I'd love to take you through some of the updates that have come out. We've actually had a huge drop of updates in this latest release. So what is VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery? It is an on-demand disaster recovery as a service. So it is a SaaS-based service for customers to protect their workloads. Now, on the slide that you'll see on the screen in front of you now, I'll just take you through that quickly. So on the very left-hand side, you can see there is what we refer to as a production site or a protected site. Now, that protected site can sit in both your on-premise data center, VMware Cloud on AWS, or some of the other hyperscalers. The only thing that needs to be deployed into your protected site is what we call the DRaaS connector, and that's a really lightweight appliance. Now, in the middle there, you can see the cloud-based services. There's really two components to that. You have the SaaS orchestrator. That's essentially your front end or your GUI, where you manage both your protection plans and your disaster recovery plans. And then we have the scale-out file system. This is where we protect the workloads into. And that is based on storage that is very durable and hosted across AWS regions. Now, up until that point, that is really all you need and all you pay for vCDR. Now, during a disaster or during testing, that's when you're going to need a recovery site. So the recovery site, you have two flavors. We have what we call Pilot Light. Now, with a Pilot Light recovery site, that is up and running all of the time, ready to take on testing or disaster recovery workloads. So the recovery time objective can be quite low. Now, for customers that perhaps don't need a very, very low recovery time objective or RTO, they can have no Pilot Light site sitting there. So what that means is during testing, when you actually have a DR event, that's when you deploy your recovery site. And that recovery site will always sit in VMware Cloud on AWS. Now, so with vCDR, it is an on-demand service. So you're only going to pay for infrastructure when you need to use it. It's very easy to use. So it's very easy to set up your protection groups, and it's very easy to set up your disaster recovery plans, as well as testing those recovery plans as well. And then finally, because it's on demand as a service, it means it can be very commercially viable for customers that are looking for a disaster recovery plan and solution without having to pay for expensive infrastructure that's sitting there all of the time. Now, as I mentioned, there was another part that I wanted to take you through as well. We've had a huge number of updates, actually 14 updates in the latest release of vCDR. And I'll take you through a number of those updates now. You'll see in the list there that we've got some updates highlighted in green. I'll go through those in a little bit more detail, but we'll cover all the updates today. So the first one's a big one. It's the 15-minute RPO has gone general availability. So for customers that are looking for a lower recovery point objective, they can now get that down to 15 minutes. Prior to this update, this was sitting at a 30-minute RPO. Now, for customers that need to go lower than that 15-minute RPO, we have other options within the AWS services, as well as some of our VMware solutions as well can provide that lower RPO. The next update is the support for VMware Cloud on AWS compute gateways on the recovery SDDC. So what that means for customers is they can recover workloads into their software-defined data center, which is sitting in VMware Cloud on AWS. They can recover their production workloads sitting on a specific compute gateway. They can also recover, say, ransomware-infected workloads into the same software-defined data center, but onto a completely separate compute gateway. This means that I can have these infected workloads that I'm looking at to recover from and fix without having them in the same network as my production workloads. The next update is support for the VMware Transit Connect on the VMware Cloud on AWS protected site. So this means my protected sites can now sit on the same networks as my other AWS services or VMware Cloud on AWS environments. I can also recover from ransomware cleansed workloads to the recovery SDDC. What this means for customers is they can now have more VMware restore options to make sure that they can clean their workloads. This gives you more fine-tuned models to be able to recover from those ransomware infections or malware infections as well, which really means that you are going to increase your cyber resiliency through the runbooks that you can set up within vCDR. We also have updated the QSing for high-frequency snapshots. Now, this is really important for customers that have workloads such as databases where they need consistency in those snapshots. So with this, it means that you can have a consistent based copy of your database. So in recovering that, it is going to be consistent with your requirements. And the way this works with your high frequency snapshots is it pauses the running state of the VM while it's taking that snapshot, which causes that consistency. The next update is the automatic install of Linux Security Sensor when using the ransomware recovery workflow. We've also increased the usability enhancements for guest file recovery. So not many people know that you can also use vCDR to recover files. So you can recover individual files using vCDR as well. And so there's been some enhancements in the usability for that. We've also increased or enabled, I should say, to be able to pause the failback before the VM shuts down. So you can now have that in your DR runbook. We've also added into the DR runbook failback retry. Now, what that means is that if you have a process that fails during your testing or during your disaster recovery, rather than that failing the whole DR, it's actually going to go back and try and retry that step in your DR plan. So a really good example for this might be that one particular application or VM needs to wait for another virtual machine to be up and running before it can continue on. Now, if that process was to fail the first time around, that would end the whole disaster recovery plan and you need to fix that. With this update, it'll essentially retry that step a couple of times. And if that can continue going, that disaster recovery plan can continue going on as well. The next update is the ability to detach your SDDC without deleting it. So prior to this update, when you detached your recovery SDDC from your vCDR solution, it would essentially delete that SDDC. So this means for customers, they no longer have to spend time setting up that recovery SDDC. We've also increased the maximum number of concurrent protection groups from 5 to 10, which means you can essentially protect more workloads at the same time, which is a really good update. The next update is around the Carbon Black portal integration. Now, we've changed the location of that from within VCDR. Essentially, it makes it more usable, user-friendly, I should say, for customers that are using Carbon Black to be able to recover from ransomware infections. We've also updated the number of countries and regions that ransomware recovery data processing has been added to. And then finally, we've enabled the ability to switch protection groups from high-frequency snapshots to standard frequency snapshots. So what this means for customers is they can change the type of snapshotting without needing to recreate their protection groups. So it makes it a lot easier for customers to change those types of snapshots when they need without adding on additional work. So that's it for the updates. As you can see, there's a huge number of updates that have come out this month, and you'll see this consistently with both VCDR as well as VMware Cloud on AWS. This continually adding on new features, new services that customers can consume. So that's what I wanted to take you and the team through and our customers through today. So back to you both in the studio.
Thanks, Greg, for all the updates and your time. It's been a great pleasure having you on the show.
Thanks so much for joining us, Greg.
And that wraps up another episode of the Update Show. It's been super fun to talk about the latest and greatest updates in the world of VMware and AWS. Thank you so much for joining us. To get more information, Dries, where should our viewers go?
You can find more information on the AWS website. Just search for VMware, and we'll have information on all of the updates covered in this month's show in the description below, as well as how to get in touch with a representative from AWS. With that, thank you to all of you who tuned in today.
Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.